Ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, visionaries and dreamers, let me declare to you with clarity and conviction, success is not a product of luck. Success is not an accident. Success is the child of hard work. You can have a dream so big that it wakes you up at night. You can carry within you a vision so bright it outshines your current reality. You can hear God's call echo in your spirit, telling you that you were born for more. But let me be clear, purpose alone does not produce success. Purpose without pursuit is potential left to perish. If you don't pursue it, purpose becomes nothing more than an unused promise. People talk about purpose like it's enough to get you there. They say, if I'm meant to do it, it will happen. But listen to me, life doesn't move on your intentions. It moves on your execution. Purpose is the map, yes, but pursuit is the motion. You can sit in your car with GPS on, knowing exactly where to go. But until you start the engine and press the gas, you are going nowhere. This is what separates the dreamers from the doers. The dreamers are always talking. They've got plans, they've got goals, but the doers are moving, they're studying, they're sacrificing, they're sweating. They are not just inspired, they are invested, because they understand that God does not sponsor laziness. He partners with movement. Some people say, well, if God really wants it for me, he'll bring it to pass. But I challenge that mindset. God gave Noah the blueprint, but Noah had to build the ark. God gave Joseph the dream, but Joseph still had to endure betrayal, slavery, and prison before he saw the throne. Purpose does not exempt you from process. It invites you into it, and the process requires pursuit. You can't coast your way to a calling. You can't casually walk into a purpose that was meant to be chased. Purpose is not for the passive. It's for the passionate. It's for the persistent. It's for the people who understand that if you don't pursue what's in you, the world will miss what you were born to release. And let's be honest, pursuit is not always exciting. It's not always glamorous. It's not always public. Sometimes it's studying when everyone else is sleeping. Sometimes it's practicing in the shadows where no one sees you clapping. Sometimes it's saying no to comfort so you can say yes to calling. That's pursuit. It's not always loud, but it's always loyal. Some of you are frustrated not because you're lacking purpose, but because you've been passive with it. You keep waiting for motivation, but what you really need is movement. Don't wait until you feel like it. Work when you don't want to. Pray when it's dry, study when it's quiet. Show up when no one claps, that's pursuit. Look at any person who has achieved something meaningful, whether in ministry, medicine, music, or business. Look beyond their talent and you'll find a trail of sacrifice. You'll find a disciplined routine. You'll find rejected proposals, early mornings, painful failures. But what you won't find is passivity, because success is never stumbled into. It is always pursued. There are too many people sitting on callings, too many voices going unused, too many gifts growing cold. And the reason isn't that God didn't give them purpose, it's that they never pursued it with passion. They wanted the title without the training. They wanted the reward without the reach. They wanted the promise without the pressure. But hear me today, if you are serious about your purpose, you will pursue it like your future depends on it, because it does. Purpose gives you direction, but pursuit gives you development. Purpose tells you where you're going, but pursuit gets you strong enough to stay there. And you cannot skip pursuit and expect to be prepared. This is why so many people get a platform and then collapse. They had purpose but no pursuit. They got visibility before they got the virtue to handle it. So how do you pursue? You start where you are. You study your craft. You build your character. You wake up early. You stop waiting for someone to notice you and start noticing what needs to be done. You read more. You complain less. You stop comparing and start creating. Pursuit is not flashy. It is faithful. You don't need applause to pursue. You need focus. You don't need to be the best right away. You just need to show up with your best every day. If you do that consistently, if you work like it depends on you and believe like it depends on God, you will see fruit. It might not come overnight, but pursuit always produces something. So I say to every student, every teacher, every young professional, every dreamer, and every believer, stop romanticizing the idea of purpose and start realizing the power of pursuit. Purpose by itself is not enough. Pursue with discipline, pursue with sacrifice, pursue with faith, and when purpose and pursuit walk hand in hand, success is not just possible, it becomes inevitable. You can wish all day. You can sit there hoping, dreaming, imagining how life could be different. You can speak positive affirmations over yourself and say, one day, it's going to happen. But let me tell you something that will transform the way you live. God does not bless empty wishing. He blesses intentional working. There is a mindset that has crept into our culture, one that believes you can bypass effort with expectation. That somehow, just because you want something bad enough, the universe, or even God himself, will just hand it to you. But the word says otherwise. The Bible says, faith without works is dead. Not ineffective, not delayed, dead. It means that faith by itself, unaccompanied by action, is lifeless. We pray for breakthroughs, but don't show up for battles. We pray for provision, but don't plan for progress. We ask for more, but won't manage what we already have. It's not that God isn't listening. It's that we're not moving. God responds to work. He doesn't reward passivity. He blesses preparation. He multiplies effort. He honors diligence. He steps into momentum. Think of the miracles in Scripture. Jesus turned water into wine, but they had to fill the jars first. He fed the 5,000, but the disciples had to organize the people and bring the fish and loaves. He raised Lazarus from the dead, but someone had to roll away the stone. God performs the supernatural, but he often waits for you to do the natural. He blesses what you bring. Too many people are sitting and waiting for a move of God, when God is waiting for a move from them. You want your business to grow, show him your work ethic. You want to be a great leader, study, serve, build your character. You want your life to change, then change your choices. God cannot multiply laziness. You can't reap a harvest from a field you never planted. You see, a wish is passive. It waits, it lingers. It hopes that life will somehow get better. But work is active. Work is a declaration of faith. Work says, I believe something is coming, so I'm getting ready for it now. When Noah built the ark, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. When the widow gathered jars for oil, she didn't see the miracle yet. But their actions activated the blessing, and let me be clear, this is not about striving in your own strength. This is not about hustling to impress people. No, this is about aligning your actions with your assignment. This is about showing God that you're serious, that you're not just asking. You're acting, you're not just interested. You're invested, you're not waiting for signs. You're building in the silence. Some of you are frustrated because you think God forgot about you. But he didn't forget. You just stopped working, you stopped writing, you stopped training, you stopped preparing because you didn't see results. But let me remind you, delay does not mean denial, and just because your effort hasn't produced fruit yet doesn't mean the seed isn't growing. God is not on your timeline, but he is watching your consistency. He is watching your integrity. He is watching how you handle small things before he releases big things. You don't need more signs, you need more steps. Get up and work, write the plan, apply again, start the project, rebuild your routine, because when God sees faith and follow through, that's when doors open. Look at your life like a field. You can pray for rain all day, but if you haven't tilled the soil, if you haven't planted the seed, if you haven't cleared the weeds, then what are you expecting to grow? Prayer is powerful, but prayer is not a substitute for preparation. God is a God of order. He blesses structure. He blesses stewardship. He blesses sweat. Even Jesus worked. Before his public ministry, he spent years in obscurity as a carpenter. That means the Savior of the world spent time cutting wood, hammering nails, working with his hands. Because even divine calling doesn't skip daily labor. If he worked in private before leading in public, What makes us think we can skip the process? You must understand the blessing is often hidden in the work. It's in the morning grind, the unseen hours, the faithful effort when no one is clapping. It's in doing what's right when it's not easy. It's in giving your best even when results are slow. That's where character is built. That's where strength is born. That's where God prepares you to carry what you're asking for. So stop just wishing for success. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop living by feelings. Get up and do the work. Work like you believe the blessing is on the way. Work like you know God is watching. Work like your breakthrough depends on your consistency, because it does. And when you work, when you put your hands to the plow, when you labor with excellence, when you show up every day with purpose, you position yourself for God to move, because He blesses the work, not the wish, not the wait, not the worry, the work. So don't just pray for it, prepare for it. Don't just dream about it. Discipline yourself for it, because when heaven sees your hustle, favor follows. We live in a generation that wants harvest without planting, rewards without responsibility, and elevation without effort. But let me break something down for you plain and clear. You cannot reap where you haven't sown. You can't expect results from a field you never touched. You can't expect to receive what you never invested. You can't withdraw from a bank account you never made deposits into. That's not how life, purpose, or God works. People are crying out for success, for favor, for breakthroughs. But they've skipped the sowing season. They want the crown but avoid the cross. They want to shine but refuse to struggle. But hear me, harvest doesn't come to the hopeful. It comes to the faithful. And faithfulness looks like work. It looks like planting in the dark, praying through the drought, and trusting the process when nothing seems to be moving. You see, sowing isn't glamorous. It doesn't get the spotlight. Sowing is private. It's repetitive. It's lonely, but it's essential. You can't skip sowing and expect success to show up like a miracle. The world honors outcomes, but God honors obedience. He pays attention to the ones who are faithful in the little, because those who are faithful in sowing are the ones He can trust with the harvest. You want to grow in knowledge, but have you sown the time to study? You want to succeed in business, but have you sown the discipline to learn the craft, to research the field, to build the skills? You want a great relationship, but have you sown patience, communication, and selflessness? You cannot reap love if you're only sowing convenience. You cannot reap success if you're only sowing excuses. The reason so many people are frustrated is not because they're cursed, it's because they're inconsistent. They sow once, then stop. They start with energy, then quit when they don't see results. But farming takes time. Seeds take time. You don't plant today and eat tomorrow. There's a delay between sowing and reaping. And what happens in the delay is what separates the weak from the wise. The impatient walk away. The faithful keep watering. Let me tell you, even when it seems like nothing is happening, something is happening. Underneath the surface, the seed is breaking open. It's taking root. It's being transformed. Just because you don't see fruit yet doesn't mean your labor is in vain. Your job is not to force the fruit. Your job is to sow in faith and water with consistency. God gives the increase in due season, but here's the hard truth. You can't expect what you haven't earned. You can't beg God for blessings while ignoring the principles He set in motion. He said, "Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap." That's not just a Bible verse, it's a law. It applies to your finances, your relationships, your calling, your education, and your character. If you want something different, you have to sow something different. You've got to sow diligence instead of delay. You've got to sow excellence instead of laziness. You've got to sow humility instead of pride. You've got to sow forgiveness instead of bitterness, because whatever you sow eventually comes back around. And let me tell you, sowing is not always about doing big things. It's about doing small things faithfully. A farmer doesn't plant one giant seed and expect a whole harvest. He plants rows and rows of tiny seeds over and over, day after day. That's how life works. It's in the small decisions, the daily habits, the quiet disciplines. That's where the harvest is born. You're not going to see a harvest if all you do is talk about it. You've got to do it. You've got to work when you don't feel like it. You've got to invest when you'd rather spend. You've got to pray when you're tired, push when you're discouraged, show up when you feel unseen. That's sowing. And if you don't quit, your harvest is coming. And don't miss this. Just because you sowed doesn't mean the harvest will look the way you expected. Sometimes God blesses you in a different field than where you sowed. Sometimes you sow in one season and reap in another. Sometimes you sow kindness into people who don't appreciate it. But God returns that blessing through someone else in another way, in another time. But one thing is certain, God is not mocked. You will reap what you sow. It might take longer than you thought. It might show up in a different form. But if you stay faithful, if you keep sowing, keep showing up, keep trusting, the harvest will come. So, don't envy someone else's harvest if you haven't matched their sowing. Don't complain about a lack of results if you've been living with a lack of effort. Don't sit in frustration when you should be out in the field planting. The field won't work if you don't. But if you do, if you work the field, water the seed, wait on God, the harvest will blow your mind, because you can't reap where you haven't sown. But if you sow with faith, with diligence, and with purpose, your reaping will be greater than you ever imagined. Everybody wants destiny. Everybody wants to walk in purpose. We love the idea of success, the dream of greatness, the call of something bigger. But hear me, desire is not enough. It's not enough to want it, to talk about it, or even to pray for it. Because between the place where desire lives and the place where destiny is fulfilled, there is a bridge, and that bridge is discipline. Desire is powerful. It can stir your soul. It can ignite your imagination. But without discipline, desire is directionless. You can desire to be educated, but if you won't study, it won't happen. You can desire to be healthy, but if you won't eat right or move your body, the desire will rot into regret. You can desire to write a book, start a business, get closer to God, but without discipline, desire dies in delay. Discipline is the daily decision to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it tells you who you are. It says you have an assignment and feelings don't get to cancel that. Discipline shows up when motivation is gone. Discipline works in silence while desire waits for applause. So many people are stuck not because they lack calling, but because they lack control. You don't need another vision board. You need structure. You don't need another prophetic word. You need a plan. God already spoke. He already gave you the dream. Now you need the discipline to steward it, because God doesn't bless chaos. He blesses consistency, and consistency comes from discipline. That means getting up when the alarm clock goes off. That means turning the TV off so you can read what you need to learn. That means managing your time like it matters, because it does. Every minute wasted is a moment of destiny delayed. Every lazy choice is a seed planted for frustration. And every disciplined step is a step closer to what God promised. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Destiny is not for the most gifted, it's for the most grounded. It's not for the ones with the loudest dreams, but the ones with the strongest habits. The ones who build the bridge, day by day, choice by choice, hour by hour, until the gap between where they are and where they're going gets smaller and smaller. Discipline is how you honor your future. When you deny yourself today, you're saying to your future self, I believe in you. I'm preparing for you. I'm making room for you. It's not punishment, it's preparation. It's a statement of faith that says, I'm not going to let my impulses sabotage my inheritance. Because let's be honest, sometimes the hardest person to manage is you. You know what to do, but you don't always feel like doing it. You know what's right, but comfort is calling your name. That's where discipline steps in. Discipline doesn't argue with your emotions. It overrides them. It says you are not led by feeling, you are led by focus. And don't think for a second that discipline is easy. It's not. That's why most people choose desire over discipline. It's easier to wish than to work. It's easier to scroll than to study. It's easier to talk than to train, but ease never leads to excellence. If it were easy, everyone would have walked in their destiny by now. But few do, because few are willing to pay the price. Discipline costs. It costs time. It costs comfort. It costs convenience, but the reward of discipline is priceless, because on the other side of that sacrifice is a version of you that is stronger, wiser, and ready for the next level. You don't get there by hoping. You get there by building. And let me tell you something about the enemy. He's not afraid of your dreams. He's afraid of your discipline. He doesn't mind if you talk big, as long as you live small. As long as you keep putting things off, as long as you keep giving in to laziness. But the moment you get serious, the moment you take your desire and back it up with discipline, that's when hell gets nervous. You want to fulfill your purpose, build a routine around it, make your time submit to your goals, set your schedule by your values, say no to distractions, say no to shortcuts, because there is no shortcut to destiny, only discipline. Destiny is not stumbled upon, it's not delivered overnight. It's walked into step by step, and every one of those steps requires choices. Intentional, uncomfortable, often unseen choices. But if you keep making the right ones, if you keep building the bridge, you will cross over into everything God has for you. So no more excuses, no more waiting until you feel like it, no more blaming the past or waiting on a sign. Start today, start small, but start with discipline. Because desire opens the door, but discipline walks you through it, and your destiny is waiting on the other side. Success is not a mystery. It's not magic. It doesn't happen by accident. It leaves a trail. It leaves clues, patterns, principles, and signs for those who are willing to pay attention. But here's the truth. The clues are only useful if you're willing to follow them. It's not enough to admire successful people. It's not enough to listen to their speeches or quote their lines. If you want what they have, you must do what they did. This generation has become obsessed with inspiration, but allergic to instruction. We want the outcome, but we avoid the process. We binge success stories like entertainment, but never apply the wisdom behind them. And yet, every success story, every truly great accomplishment, is built on repeated patterns of discipline, strategy, and decision. Those aren't secrets. They're clues, but clues require responsibility. They don't chase you down. They don't beg for your attention. They sit in the lives of people who have gone ahead of you, waiting for someone hungry enough, humble enough, and teachable enough to learn. Because success doesn't respond to ego. It responds to action. You don't rise by admiration. You rise by application. You see someone walking in purpose, building wealth, raising strong children, growing in wisdom, and you think they must be lucky. But luck didn't build that business. Luck didn't write that book. Luck didn't wake up at 5:00 a.m. every morning, resist distractions, and build from the ground up. That wasn't luck. That was alignment. That was stewardship. That was sacrifice. And the amazing thing is that success leaves the blueprint behind. It doesn't hide the way, it reveals it through routines, principles, and values. If you want to succeed in any area, spiritually, financially, relationally, professionally, then study those who have already done it. But don't just clap for them. Copy the patterns, extract the habits, follow the formula. God is not a respecter of persons, but he honors principles. And those who walk in wisdom tap into those principles. Even in the Bible, wisdom is often transferred by observation. Elisha followed Elijah. Joshua studied Moses. The disciples walked with Jesus. They didn't just hear what he said. They watched what he did. They followed the clue trail, and because of that, they stepped into purpose when it was their turn. You'll never walk in greatness if you're too proud to follow someone greater. Some people want to blaze a new trail without first learning the old one. But why reinvent what's already been revealed? Why fall into traps that someone already overcame? The clues are there. The systems, the mindset, the rhythms of success. They are available to anyone willing to learn. But learning requires humility. It means asking questions. It means being corrected. It means admitting you don't know everything. You don't need to start at zero when others have already built the ladder. Climb their steps, read their biographies, learn their disciplines, watch how they manage their time, how they handle pressure, how they structure their day. Success always leaves evidence, but you must study it, trace it, and then practice it until it becomes your own. It's not enough to be in the presence of greatness. You've got to absorb what makes it great. It's not proximity that changes your life. It's intentional pursuit. You can sit next to a successful person for years and never grow if you don't observe, ask, apply. Because it's not what's around you that transforms you. It's what you act on. That's why mentorship matters. That's why community matters. That's why you need to surround yourself with people who have gone where you want to go. You need to hear how they think, how they recover from failure, how they structure their vision. Because if you walk with the wise, you become wise. But if you walk with the distracted, the jealous, the lazy, you'll stay stuck where you are. You cannot walk in success while ignoring the steps that lead to it. You can't claim the prize without enduring the process. And you can't expect results without respecting the road that others have walked before you. Success is predictable when you follow proven patterns. But let me warn you, those clues aren't always easy to follow. They lead through discomfort. They will challenge your current habits. They will force you to grow, to stretch, to change your thinking. That's why many ignore the clues. They want a shortcut, not a strategy. But there is no shortcut to real success. Only a series of intentional steps. You've got to decide that you're not going to be a casual observer. You're going to be a committed student. You're not just going to wish for greatness. You're going to chase it, not in random bursts of motivation, but in daily discipline, in quiet obedience, in the hidden, hard places where most people give up. If you do that, if you track the clues, follow the patterns, stay the course, you will rise, you will grow, you will break cycles, you will shift legacies, because success is not about being special. It's about being willing. Willing to learn, willing to follow, willing to do what others won't, so you can live how others can't. Success leaves clues, but you've got to follow them, not just hear them, not just admire them, not just post them. Follow them now that you've heard it, now that we've laid the foundation, line upon line, truth upon truth. Understand this, success is not a fantasy, it's a formula. It doesn't belong to the chosen few, it belongs to the faithful few. It is not for the ones who merely dream. It is for the ones who dare to do, to work, to push, to sacrifice, to sweat, to stay when it's hard, to sow when it's dry, to discipline the flesh, and to chase the clues that others ignore. You cannot bypass the process and expect the promise. You cannot pray for harvest while sleeping through the planting season. You cannot cry out for destiny while living in denial of your own laziness. Because God does not bless apathy. He blesses action. He honors effort. He breathes on diligence. He multiplies what you're willing to work for. You want to rise, then rise in your thinking. Rise in your habits. Rise in your consistency. Understand that every step of hard work is not just physical labor. It is spiritual alignment. It is obedience to the principle that faith without works is dead. You don't just believe for it, you build for it. Whether it's in your education, your family, your business, your spiritual walk, or your personal growth, the formula remains. There is no success without sacrifice, no glory without grind, No destiny without discipline. You must sow before you reap. You must grind before you shine. You must endure before you elevate. So I challenge you, stop waiting for the right moment. Become the right person. Wake up early. Stay a little later. Study harder. Pray deeper. Follow the patterns. Build the bridge. Do the work. Because every time you choose work over weakness, every time you choose discipline over distraction, every time you follow the path instead of faking the image, you are stepping closer to the life you were created for. Success is possible, but success demands your full participation. God will bless the work of your hands, but you've got to use your hands. You've got to move your feet. You've got to stretch your faith. Because nothing great comes easy and nothing eternal comes cheap. Success is impossible without hard work, but it is unstoppable when faith and effort come together. Now go, work, build, sow, and become everything God has called you to be.